First Contact Day festivities at Woplu were grand occasions, as it was one of the 8 system holidays. This particular celebration of it, however, marked the 232nd occurrence of it. Major adjusted the dark sunglasses over her large eyes and fidgeted with her new uniform skirt as she looked over the celebratory banners, streamers, and all manner of other tidings. The Omdera had never seen such opulence before in her life, and had never actually seen many of the things she had been given to mix and serve for the partygoers. The young bartender had been given a hefty lump sum for her services by the old mip-hop she had served on her last gig in an upper-class neighborhood. Finding out that he was none other than Goik Mulaplox had been exceptionally surprising. A large Nimian had quietly made his way to the bar she had been set up at. He had to have been the biggest of his kind that she had seen, large muscles on each of his arms, thick chest, and the athletic shorts he had on showed off his toned legs. She was quite thankful, however, that her eyewear was polarized and too dark to show her squinting from the travesty of clashing colors that was his shirt. It was then she learned that floral patterns could be weaponized. "You're that mix from Naomi's place, aren't you?" the big man replied, looking at the ware set up behind her with a keen eye. "Yes. I'm surprised Mr. Brookplus hired me for this. I expected he'd only want the best for this kind of thing. I'm honored, but curious." "Goik has an eye for what something can become rather than what something is," Grindle said. "So if you're here, it means that you have talent, and can become something valuable to him later. Besides, this is a family-only thing, mostly." "That's something to think about," Major said, then asked. "So, what can I make for you, sir?" "Surprise me," Grindle said, "but make it something pungent and strong." "Shouldn't be a problem, sir." "Grindle will do just fine." As Grindle and Major conversed, Goik was talking to someone he had not seen in a few solar rotations. The very old Mip-Hops across from him was wearing what seemed to be a casual pair of shorts and a breathable shirt. However, the fit of his garb showed that the natural fibre clothing had been tailored to fit his frail and aging frame. The old gentleman sipped a purple liquid from an ornately carved saucer, made out of some kind of ivory, and spoke to his longtime associate. "What you are asking of me is near impossible, especially after your recent appearances in court." "I was acquitted of all charges of wrongdoing," Goik said, with what his species considered a sly smile, sipping from his own identical saucer. "Now is a good time to push through better trade agreements with the Terrans, and allow more of their goods and materials to flow into Woplu. The only thing Terrans are good for are drugs and weapons. The trading commissions won't allow it. You should count yourself lucky you're still able to do business with them at all." "That's species and you know it," Goik replied evenly. "I've been with and around Terrans longer than anyone else in Woplu, besides our esteemed diplomats. While their weapons are cruel and efficient, and their food is riddled with toxins, those do not define them. I've seen their few walls personally, and even stepped foot in Terra Prime, and I've seen their cities." Yes, I know all that. And you still say that they are not just soldiers," the older fellow said, with a bit of scorn. "I've seen the unredacted footage from Dantrix. There's a reason why that debacle was settled after only one engagement." "Yes. To quote Terrans, war is hell," Goik said, refilling their saucers with more purple liquid from a beautiful, short, and squat crystalline decanter. "Trust me on this. Terrans are going to reshape the known galaxy, if only with their building materials. The things they can do with just carbon is amazing." "There's just no talking you out of this, is there?" "No, there isn't, Bakhtiari, and it's my money that's going to be used for your re-election to the Senate," the younger of the old men replied. "But that's not why I asked you here today." "No? For once, Goik Muplukwartz, merchant extraordinaire, isn't going to go on about money? No. With age I've determined that fixing mistakes is greater than material wealth," Goik said, as he stood up from his chair. "Come, you're finally going to meet my daughter." It had taken quite a long time, but Selina and Gert were satisfied with how they looked for their night on the town. As promised, Selina had let her friend pick out her outfit for their excursion, and had to admit that she looked good. The two stood in front of Selina's mirror, sharing the small, cramped space that tried and failed to call itself a bathroom. Selina's visage was in front, as her frame was smaller than the green woman behind her. Her black hair had been done up with colourful beadwork and braids, which had taken up most of the time. Her backless, low-cut V-neck purple dress was a strange synthetic material that either absorbed or reflected light, depending on the viewer's angle, and was held together by a litany of strings and ties, revealing lots of her darkened olive-toned skin. Glancing down at the dress she was wearing had her left leg fully exposed from the long slit in it. The metal connections of her hip were partially exposed from how revealing the dress she had been talked into wearing was. The prosthetics she was wearing were the travel set she had been modifying, and were quite obvious that they were fake and metal. She had painted them with meaningless tribalistic designs that simply looked cool and could be easily washed off. The taller woman behind her had her cranial flora done up with colourful silken ribbons, which had also taken a long time to get just right. The shirt Gert was wearing was quite sheer, revealing her everything, with only green pasties that blended quite well with her skin tone to hide her modesty. Her mini skirt let the sprawling show off her long legs, and as she moved a certain way, more than just her legs could be viewed. Prismatic body glitter was contorted expertly upon her green frame, accentuating certain features and drawing the eye to others, giving her the appearance of an enchanted fairy or woodland dryad from Terran fantasy works. "I can't believe I let you talk me into wearing this. My parts are showing," Selena said, after a moment of looking at them both in the mirror. "So?" the green woman asked. "So are mine." "That's a little different. Your people don't view public nudity as taboo like most other cultures," Selena said, "but that's not what I meant." She tapped the metal of her hip that was in view, a small metallic ting reverberating with each tap of her prosthetic finger. "I mean this. I've never just worn bottoms so revealing." A soft look came over Gert's face. "No, I get what you mean, I really do. I understand that you have apprehensions about the way you look and how you feel about it all. Besides, there's only one person's opinion that matters anyway." "You're right, Gert. I'm a grown woman and I shouldn't care what random people I'll never see again think of me." "Right. And I have to say, we look good tonight." "We do, huh? Ugh, I don't even know why I let myself get so worked up over such a silly thing." Gert laughed. "I know why. You're worried about what Rutak thinks." "Well, a little, yeah." "Girl, he's helped put you back together again. Something like this after something harrowing like that is nothing. You should already know how he feels about you." "You're right. And I sort of do know how he feels," Selena said. "But sometimes self-doubt just eats away at you." "If you wanted to be eaten," Gert said with a smirk, "all you needed to do was ask." "Gert, I'm trying to have a moment here." "I know, and we had one," the green woman said. "But no use in getting too worked up and ruining all of our makeup. It's time we get to partying. We can be emotional hot messes later." "Fun now, cry later, huh?" Selena said thoughtfully. "You remind me a lot of my best friend back in Terra." "Oh? Well, let's send her a message," Gert said excitedly, practically shoving Selena's phone into her hands. "Hey, bestie," Selena said to the camera on her phone, as she and Gert made their way out of her home, holding it away from her. "It's my first official party here in this rock. First contact day. Meet Gert, my best friend at Wokplu." Gert smiled and waved as the phone's angle was changed. "I'm taking your friend out on the town tonight. Gonna show her the nightlife again. It's gonna be wild. Look what I got Selena to wear." Selena handed her phone to Gert and spun around slowly, letting the recording get a 360-degree view. "I'm trying out a new look for a new place," Selena exclaimed excitedly. "And look at my new ride. I told you about it, but now you can see it." Gert recorded Selena acting as an over-the-top model as she tried to lay across the hoverbike seductively, as though she were a pin-up girl, but came across as goofy, which was the intended effect. Sitting up, she said as she turned a manual quick-release control on her left arm, suppressing a shudder from the bizarre sensation of sudden disconnection. "I got it on sale and it only cost me an arm," Selena said, as she waved her prosthetic arm around. Selena and Gerbo started laughing loudly. Okay, we've got to get going or we'll be late meeting my boyfriend," Selena said, as she reattached her prosthetic and made sure it was locked and set properly. "How do I turn this off? Oh, never mind here," Gert said, as she handed the phone back to her friend. "So, Rutak's your boyfriend now, huh?" "I suppose he is," the short woman answered, taking her phone back and sending the data file. With a deep breath, she continued, "I just hope he sees it that way." "I'm sure he will," Gert said. "As a whole, Daoshin culture is pretty laid back, especially so with him, given that he's raised his clan standing." "He was telling me about that their clans have a peculiar social structure. Something about raising the potential of their clans since he did something not usually done in modern times." "That's about the sum of it," Gert said. "Let's take your new bike. Mine needs some work done on it. I postponed its maintenance so I could get my leg fixed." "How is that, by the way?" Selena asked as she made sure she had everything again, tucking her purse into one of the many compartments. Finally adjusting the harness for her gauze pistol, she climbed onto a hoverbike, turning it on with an electric ringing sound. Much better. I had to have surgery and get the whole thing replaced. I'm seriously lucky that it was still under warranty. Had to pay 10%, but far better than paying for it all. Set me back a lot. Well, that's some bittersweet news, Selina replied, as Gerd got onto the seat behind her. If we time this right, we should arrive at that one parking structure about the same time as Rutek. Just don't go too fast. We put too much work in to get that windswept look. Agreed, Selina said, pulling out to the driveway. Rutek was leaning against his powered-down hoverbike, listening to music playing on much more discreet earbuds than his usual oversized ones. He was wearing what he usually wore when he went out to make an impression, though perhaps he had put more effort into it than usual. An open, black synthetic leather jacket with all sorts of metal studs and zippers that served no purpose other than aesthetic, over a brand new green shirt with a decal on the front of it. The two-colour design was split diagonally, with the top right being an orange-like brick red colour and the rest a dark violet. An elongated, spindly 9-pointer star was a backdrop against a heavy hammer, striking against an anvil with Dionysus script encircling the whole design. Cut-off denim shorts that ended just above his digitigrade knees finished his ensemble. A matte, glossy shine showed that his scales had been subjected to a discreet kind of polishing that had been uncomfortable around his mostly fully healed pulse pistol wounds. His weapon was neatly slotted in a holster on his leg, and 2 fully charged knuckle dusters were in hidden pockets in his leather jacket. Looking at the time on his phone and skipping the current song playing, he simply waited for the 2 girls to arrive, watching the parking garage fill up around him slowly. Other people gave him a bit of space, as he did look threatening with his choice of clothes and weapon out on display. The space next to his had already been reserved ahead of time, this particular parking garage having each space cost a certain amount, with cheaper parking on higher levels away from the street entrance, and thus the on-site security. The parking structure's management claimed to have hired extra security guards for the festivities. Their words seemed to hold true, as Rutek had been approached by a guard earlier, inquiring as to why they had been waiting alone for some time, since he looked quite the shady character. Chuckling a bit at the recent memory, he looked at his watch again with unjustified impatience. It was not so much that his 2 friends were late, rather that he had been early. Putting his phone into his pocket and opening a compartment on his hoverbike, he grabbed a particularly unhealthy semi-warm energy drink, and began to sip on it as he waited. Is that you, Rutek? A feminine voice asked from a small distance away, shaking the Dionysus out of his thoughts. Looking at who called out to him, he spotted a Mipops female and a mixed bag of other beings. Another Mipops male, a very short meow yill. He could never tell males from females with them. A Yondera and 2 very muscular Togsis that were sharing a portable nebulizer, bickering away at each other in a dialect his translator could not decipher. Hatley, is that you? Rutek asked. Yeah, I haven't seen you in so long. How are things? And I saw you on the local newsnet. Much better now, actually, he replied easily with a smirk. It was just a shootout. Nothing too big. Didn't die. Nothing too big? Hatley responded with indignation. You and a Terran brought in a known syndicate hacker and identity thief. The investigation shut down the whole ring train system for a whole rotation, and they caught 3 more syndicate members trafficking drugs. I'm a bounty hunter, so like I said, nothing too big. The woman shook her head. Well, I'm glad you're doing well for yourself. You look like you're doing well yourself. Yeah, I am. I switched jobs and then got a promotion, so I moved out of that shithole apartment as soon as I could. I have my own home now. It's one of those new modular prefabs on the north side. Just a 1-bedroom, but it's my prefab 1-bedroom. That's good. I'm still in the same place, and your unit was taken over by someone that's always up in everyone's business. Rude, putting people down, and always saying how the way other people do things is wrong. Just an all-round obnoxious and unpleasant person. That's terrible, Hatley replied. Well, we've got to get going. It was nice to see you again. You too, he called back, as his former neighbour left with her group of friends. Small galaxy, he said to himself, as she walked off. By the time he had finished sipping his drink, he saw Selina and Gerd pulling up into the empty space next to him. He watched the 2 women get off the hoverbike and was surprised at what Selina was wearing. She was stunning. Were you waiting long? Selina asked. I know we're a little late. Not too long, Rutek lied. Long enough to see that there's actually extra security, so our money here is well spent. That's good, Gerd said. I was afraid we'd be ripped off. No, not today, Rutek said, then asked, So, where to first? Don't ask me, Selina said. I'm not sure which part of Talvi I'm even at. She paused, then asked, Rutek, what's your shirt say? My translator isn't recognizing the script. Oh, this is my clan's emblem. The script is a dead Daishin language that scholars and edgy types use. It loosely translates into "the fires of life make me stronger." It's my clan's motto. That's a good phrase to embody, the Terran said, still examining the shirt. I'm glad you approve, Rudak said, then added, Do you Terrans have anything similar? No, not really, Selena answered. Maybe at one time, but that's not the case anymore. Mostly it's just do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Basically, don't be a jerk. There's some others, but they sort of vary by region on Terra or by planet. Martians say live long and prosper, but that's said as a goodbye, so I don't think that counts, and Proximians say sometimes you have to roll the hard 6. I'm not sure I understand the last one, Rudak said, thinking on the phrasing. It means you take action or a chance and hope for the best. It's a little depressing, came about after the last war. I like those, Gert said. They have good meanings, even that last one. Anyways, I think we should get something to eat. That sounds like a plan, Rudak said. I think I know a place. I'm not sure if it's still around. Well, lead the way, Selena said, putting her purse over her shoulder after making sure she had everything for the 3rd time. Maybe I can find something that can get me drunk, so that's Golempty drinks at the least. I know where one of those are, Gert said. Just follow me. The two friends followed the Sprouling as she guided them through the busy, hot streets of Tau V. While there was still plenty of daylight left, the hottest part of the day was behind them, and it was fast approaching evening, the nearly unbearable heat fading away as the sky changed colours. With each passing moment, more and more beings began to come out of their homes to enjoy the cooling air and to partake in the wares and foods being offered. Temporary street vendors were everywhere, selling both food and cheap, gimmicky toys for small children. Every so often, a Tau V Security Forces member was spotted, their presence keeping the peace for the most part. Stopping by a particularly interesting street vendor's cart, Selena looked at the various things on display, from keychains to imitation particle weapons to small, remote-control flying devices and many others. I'll take these, Selena said, putting a bunch of cheap novelty chem lights up for purchase. I can't believe you're buying those, Rudak said with a laugh, as Selena made her purchase and put the pliable chem light strings into her purse. It's a planet-wide party, of course I'm going to indulge a little, the Terran said. I'm not too worried about the cost, and I got some for all of us. It's your money to waste, Rudak said with a shrug. It's not much further, I think, Gert said. If I recall correctly, Milklids should be off Zupclaw and Maine, one of the older Goethe restaurants. I know that one, Selena said. I read about it when I was looking at the history of Tau V. The owner almost became mayor, too. Yeah, that was some time ago, Rudak said. It's still a small family business, caters to off-orders mostly. Yeah, it's on the expensive side, so I've never bothered actually trying to go, Selena said. Well, money isn't a problem right now for any of us. I say let's splurge a bit, Gert said, as they all waited at a traffic stop with many other beings. Linklin's Cantina, as the old son of the building declared, was a medium-sized restaurant that looked like it had expanded by taking over the building next to it, as well as a portion of the cyborg, so that it had outside dining. There was a fold-out sign standing outside at an angle, and taking up a small amount of space that had the day's special written in some kind of ink or marker. Grilled turcots in Nimian-style sour sauce, baked gurkui, and sweet iced cream. The signage included drawings that looked more like a caricature of the food served on a plate, with some kind of drink. I have no idea what any of that is, but it sounds good, Selena said, as the trio walked into the restaurant. Inside was a hustle and bustle of activity and noise, as diners ate and chatted in the well-air-conditioned establishment. There were lots of Nimians and Goipti, with a smattering amount of Yondera and a single Tiepoian, though there were no Mipops diners. The decor of the place was strange, having various curios from many races along the upper walls of the building. A Terran road sign that read 250 kph, a Typoian digging tool, a well-preserved avian bird of prey skeleton from Minyao, a razorbeak, and a friending position was in the corner among others. A Mipops male was at the reception desk as host, wearing a hazardous materials mask and eyewear, complete with a breathing unit, that looked very new, or at least very well taken care of. The man looked to the group of three and asked them simply, a speaker under the faceplate translating his words automatically into Galactic Standard, without feedback from the breathing apparatus. Would you be eating inside or outside? Just a moment, Gert said, as she turned to her friend. What do you think? I prefer the sun myself. Doesn't matter to me, Rudak said, still looking around at all the things on the walls. Selena turned to the host. I think outside will do. Very well, he said, tapping away at a screen. I think we should have something ready for use in about 15 or 20 minutes. If you could wait over there, please. With a nod, Selina and her two friends went to wait by the inside benches at the entrance that had been set up. As the lone Terran looked around, she saw that there were two other mixed parties waiting to be seated with them. A small Yondera, a child, went up to Selina and looked at her, quite curious, the dark sunglasses preventing true eye contact. "Can I help you?" Selina asked the child. "Are you really a Terran?" the child asked plainly. "Pult!" a Yondera woman hissed out quietly at the small child. "You can't just go up to people like that." "Sorry, ma'am," the kid said, then turned back to Selina and asked again, "Excuse me, but are you really a Terran?" "That's better," the woman said and turned to Selina. "I'm sorry about that, ma'am." "It's no trouble," the Terran said with a smile. "Yes, I'm a Terran. Why do you ask, little one?" "'Cause you're not all big and scary like that Terran on the news." "Oh, I see," she said. "Terrans come in all shapes and sizes. That man you saw on the news is a special Terran. He's the biggest, strongest, and nicest Terran there is why he's a military doctor." "That doesn't make any sense," the child said. "Soldiers fight and kill, that's their caste." "Yes, soldiers do those things," Selina said, "but that man is different. You see, he doesn't like fighting and people getting hurt, but people are going to fight and get hurt, so he wants to be there to fix them up so they don't die. It's why he saved enemy soldiers." "But then they'll fight again." "They may, that's true, but an enemy turned friend is vanquished forever. Just think on that a bit, okay? Then maybe you'll understand Terrans a bit better." "That's... what?" the child said, perplexed, and went back to his parents, thinking hard about what was said, trying to puzzle it all out quietly. The woman whispered to Selina as the child sat down. "Thank you for giving him something difficult to think about. He's always talking." "No problem. We Terrans are not all about war." The woman nodded, or the Yondera equivalent, and went back to her party, relief from her talking child clearly evident. "That was something interesting to hear," Riek said. "Who came up with that?" "I think it was Sun Tzu, a warlord philosopher for some 3,000 years ago. I can't really remember. I'll have to ask my uncle or his friends for more accurate information." "Fair enough," Gert said. Nearly 20 minutes later, the three friends were seated to an outside table. They chatted amongst themselves while they waited for their food to arrive, Riek having the special and Gert had something more aligned to a dish from her home planet. Selina had perused the menu, ordered a glossy dish that was more like a very lightly spiced jambalaya, that nearly brought her to tears with delight. It was the closest she had gotten to a meal from home since she had arrived. She was definitely going to come back. Their meal progressed without further incident, the three of them chatting away about mundane things and how their lives were going, what they would like to do if given the chance, and what other sights Woplu had to offer, such as cities and natural wonders. Selina learned a bit more about Riek, in that he could wear his clan's emblem in informal settings, as he earned the right to represent his clan. Gert, however, had admitted to embellishing certain events related to her people's history. While it was true that her people could release quite potent and toxic pheromones, she had overstated the severity of what was known as the Vimixi event. What had actually happened was that 255,000 non-sprouting sapiens had killed themselves in the span of a few days before antitoxins could be administered. Additionally, she had greatly exaggerated her species' longevity, though they were the longest lived among the known galaxy. They lived to be around 900 Terran years old, with their oldest recorded age at 1007. Selina was annoyed, but had admitted her words then had been a good pep talk, and had forgiven her. Riek thought the whole thing was hilarious, as everything was on public records, which Selina had never bothered to verify. In the end, the Terran vowed to get even with her green friend. She just needed time to think of a good prank.